Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second episode of the Berkcast, the How to Train Your Dragon podcast. I'm your host, HC, and with me is Voyger.
Hey there.
And our guest commentator, Wolf.
Hello, I'm the guest.
Raj wasn't available to record with us, but we did record something that will go up as episode 2.1. So look forward to that. But today we're going to discuss How to Train Your Dragon, not just as a franchise, the first movie, the one that started it all. So, Wolf, you're the guest of honor. Why won't you start? Personal experience with the movie, how you got around to it, because you weren't in the first episode. So tell us about it.
Well, I didn't exactly know the movie existed at first. Like, life was good, life was enjoyable. Never even knew it happened until I started seeing ads for the show. And that's how I got into, and I watched the first 2 episodes of the show and liked it and enjoyed it. And so went in from there, looking up some stuff, learning, and found the movie and decided to watch it and found it and loved it.
Okay, cool. So the movie starts. The first thing we see is the island of Berk, and Hiccup narrates before the dragon attacks. And what were your thoughts when you saw that attack? What was the first thing that pops into your head?
Oh, it'd have to be awesome. Because I mean, it's just
people
such
die. Awesome.
and it's just such a really good opening for that scene where it's just, very epic, very action-packed and filled all of a sudden, like just immediately. So it's like, in my opinion, like a very good opener for that movie. Or for the movie.
Voyger, your thoughts on the opening?
I think I was really pulled in by the kind of quirky lines from Hiccup, just sarcastically talking about, the pests or some people have mosquitoes, but we have dragons. And you're just kind of pulled in by that charm that you don't really hear anywhere else or, hadn't heard before when you first saw that movie.
Yeah, for me personally, I think it was the perfect opening because it had action which pulls you in right away, but they also managed to give you exposition throughout, which makes you understand how this world works, and you can kind of buy it. You know what I mean?
It's not very heavy either, I would say. Like, it's very light on the exposition when it does give it to you. And it's mostly there at the beginning of the movie. I know narration at the beginning, but it's very light and it's very well done for that world, I would say.
Yes, about what you said, there's the line where Hiccup said, most people will leave, not us, we are Vikings, we have stubbornness issues. And it's like, you know what, that's such a quick explanation, quick way to get around why they don't leave this place, but you buy it, it works, you understand the mentality behind it, I guess you can say. And the music also, even though it's a fight, the music is still cheery, upbeat. It gives you adrenaline to watch the rest of the thing.
I'd agree, and I'd say that it kind of provides the perfect amount of lightness and drama too, so that it kind of combines, both the children's audience and the parents that are there, or, us who are kind of in the middle.
Yes. And another thing I want to say, the first dialogue between Hiccup and Gabber, this is the example of how well this movie is written. The Hiccup, if you want to go out there and kill dragons, you have to stop being all of this. You just gestured to all of me. Yes, that's it. Stop being all of you. Oh, I love that part. Anyone agree?
Yeah, it's very good, I'd say. It's like, it's very well written. Not much more to
and it also sends you that vibe of the sarcastic Vikings, that this is how they talk. There's this big dragon attack going on outside, but they still have time for flavor chat. It's not super serious. It's not the end of the world. It's a regular routine. It happens. And we just accept. It happens sometimes. Dragons attack. Yeah, they used it well. Yeah,
And what I think
because
is
it's
sorry.
not. No, Voyger, go on. I can wait.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, another thing that it's been kind of made fun of is the fact that the adults have accents, but the kids don't. But even
Yes.
so, they make it work in a very odd way. They all seem part of the same world, and I find that like just very interesting and very well done in another way.
Yes, something Wolf brought up about the modern lay lingo. I think the reason it works it's because they don't overplay it. Like they use words like girlfriend or I might even get a date, but it's not. They say it once, and that's all she wrote. They don't overplay it where it's necessary. They put it where it's not. They don't. So they hit that balance between use it and not. Yeah. And the next thing, Hiccup shoots down Toothless. What? Uh, Honestly, I saw it coming because it's obvious that this loser kid we built up has to succeed in something. But I felt happy for the guy. What about you? Like seeing it for the first time.
Good shot.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think that at that point, we don't have much of a connection to Toothless at all. So, we do get that moment where we're really happy for Hiccup, and we don't, even though we might have seen it coming that he was going to shoot down Toothless, we don't know exactly what's going to happen next, and we could not predict that they were going to become, friends. So I think it's a good moment kind of in the middle before Hiccup kind of realizes what he's actually done to an innocent creature. We get this moment where we can be happy for him, and we're kind of almost hopeful that he'll be recognized because we just learned that he's the underdog. He's made fun of by most people, and that one little happy moment there before the big twist.
Yes. Another thing, I actually talked about it with Rush in the previous recording, and this is one of the movies that gets bullying right, if you know what I mean. Because Hiccup is not being bullied because he's a nerd, he's being bullied because he screws everything up, and in a world like this where screwing up means people lose their lives, people lose their food, people lose their homes, you understand why he's being neglected from the other Vikings.
And you can sympathize more with that as well.
Yeah, because everyone had this overbearing thing that we can the expectations we can't live up to. But he still has that sarcasm to him, like when Stuik tells him, I have a village to feed, and he replies with, well, between you and me, everyone can use a little less feeding. And it's the little things like that it makes you like the guy and connect with him.
It's his coping mechanism. It's how we all kind of cope with our different failures and what's going on in life. And he copes by, being snarky, being sarcastic, and kind of making a moment less awkward for him by joking about it, essentially.
Yes.
And it's a great coping mechanism that, one, makes you laugh, and two, kind of gets you more, sympathetic towards him and invested towards him wanting to, be able to fit in more and be better at what he wants to do. Which at that time is be
Indeed.
more of a Viking.
Yes. And there's also something Rush brought up in that conversation between Hiccup and Stuik, that Hiccup says, I see a dragon, I have to kill it, it's who I am, dead. And Stuik tells him, there are a lot of things you are, Hiccup, but a dragon killer is not one of them. It's actually pretty clever foreshadowing, I think.
And a good parallel at that as well.
Yep.
For Stoic
And
wanting him to be more of a Viking, but him not being that much of a Viking, and then him becoming more of a Viking, but Stoic, knowing he's not that much of a Viking. It's
yes.
a very good parallel, if I'd phrase that properly.
Yeah, and scene later where Gobber and Stuik talk about him, this is the strength because Stuik will have been the easiest character to make boring. Oh, it's the father that will never listen to his son and won't ever see the other route, but you can tell that he's hurting about it. He wants to like Hiccup. He wants Hiccup to be good. And he said that Hiccup is not what he's meant to be, but he has problems expressing himself, and that's a real issue.
You can tell.
Some.
No, sorry.
I just wanted to say, some kids and parents act like this. Parents don't always know how to talk to their kids. That's very relatable, and I like that one. So, what do you want to say?
You can tell that he loves his son. Like, he does care about him, he does
Yes.
love him, and he does, appreciate who he is, but he's also a little bit disappointed in who he is as well. And you can tell that, and you can sympathize with that to a degree. Like, you can sympathize where he's coming from, like who he is, and the fact of that, that he does have an entire village to look after, and he has to put that before his own family. And you can, to a degree, sympathize with that, and see, at the very least, see where he's coming from, and see why he's somewhat disappointed in Hiccup, and to a degree who he is. But you can still tell that he does care and love Hiccup to some degree.
Voyger, your thoughts?
Maybe it's something to say for a little bit later, but going back to the parallels, right after the scene where Hiccup shoots Toothless down and then later goes back to find him in the forest to, cut out his heart, show the whole village. There's actually a very subtle parallel there that I just found really interesting when I discovered it. Hiccup, when he realizes what he's done to Toothless, he says, "I did this." And then you skip to the end of the movie where Stoic is kneeling in front of Toothless. He thinks his son is dead. He sits down on his knees and whispers, "I did this." And it's just very interesting to see how the characters, even though we've just talked about the, they're in very different places, the father and son, they don't have a good, a very strong relationship with each other. They do relate. They're still very much alike, even if they, have their differences.
I never thought about that. That's awesome.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's one of those little
Thanks,
things I picked up on a while ago.
Yeah, so the famous scene Hiccup and Toothless meet. Not the best way to meet your best friend, I guess you can say.
The best of enemies
Very
can go
true.
on to become the best of friends.
Yeah.
Or the worst of enemies, maybe.
Yes, indeed. But again, I really like the fact that he looks Toothless in the eye, and Toothless knows that he's not getting out of this. He closes his eyes, he's ready to die, and then Hiccup's conscience, I guess, tells him, "You can't do it. You can't kill him." And then when Hiccup sets Toothless free, Toothless also he's about to blast Hiccup to bits, but he just lets out a roar. He warns them and runs away. That's the first sign we have of the parallels between Hiccup and Toothless, which is a big element of the franchise.
Right, and I think we immediately see that Toothless has personality, and we can see the emotion on Toothless's face. He knows, and that immediately puts us where Hiccup is, and it helps us relate to him even more as the main character, just because it's so obvious what he's thinking and what Toothless is thinking, and that just it creates a bond, and it helps move the story along with us rooting for Hiccup and Toothless.
Yep. Wolf, anything to add?
No, I'd agree with all of that, and not much I can add there.
Okay, so moving on, Hiccup starts the dragon classes, and that's where we start seeing the other characters. We learn who Astrid is, we learn who Fishlegs is, Snotlout, the twins. We get to know them more in that scene. Any quick thoughts on them? Wolf, I know you have a lot to say about Astrid.
More so about the relationship that her and Hiccup become in. And I would say Astrid, at the beginning of the movie, like a lot of people, and to start off with, I think this could probably be an entire episode on its own, to a degree maybe.
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah. A lot of people consider Astrid to already like Hiccup at the beginning of the movie. I would personally disagree with that and say that she is more possibly disappointed in not necessarily Hiccup, but the future that he currently represents at the beginning of the movie. And that's why you kind of see some of the body language that she gives off and kind of the animation that they kind of give her. It feels and comes off as more of a she's disappointed in what he currently represents. Like, he's not the chief that Stoic is, and he's not the chief that the village needs at that time. This does change, but at that time it's, not that way. And she kind of comes off that way throughout a good portion of the movie until a certain scene, and I'm sure we'll get there in a bit. But I would say, like,
but
she is, Astrid represents, like, she's like the kind of conduit for the village as a whole. She is the Viking's Viking, I would say. When the rest of the village looks at Astrid, they see, the future of their generation, and they're proud. They see the other teens, and there's a mixed bag there possibly, but some they could take, some they could leave, but they all kind of represent what a Viking should be in some way. Hiccup doesn't, at least not as clearly at first. He definitely is what a Viking should be, but in his own way, not necessarily in the way they would expect.
I totally agree with
and but something I want to add on that scene at the arena, and also a bit in the beginning when the teens make fun of Hiccup. In terms of the relationship with him, you can tell that, like you said, Wolf, Astrid doesn't hate him, but she doesn't love him at the same time. He's just there for her. Let's say it like this: if he wasn't Stoic's son, she probably won't even look at him.
No, but because of who he is, she at least acknowledges his presence.
Exactly. And notice in a later scene where Gabber asks the teens where did Hiccup go wrong in the lesson, she's the only one who gave like the legit criticism that he's not where,
because she does want him to do better. Yeah, she does want him to become better and do better and be the chief that Stoic is, or be a good chief at least. She does want him to better himself. Like, she does care, but not necessarily in a romantic or relationship like way. She cares in the fact that she cares about the village, and if he's not a good chief, the village will hurt as a whole. But if he's at least a good chief or a decent chief, the village will be better for it. Like, her entire character is built around, at least at first, it's built around bettering the village, being there for the village, protecting the village. She cares about the village and her people.
Yeah, also the first line of dialogue she says in the entire movie, even, I think, not just in that scene, is no turning back. She knows, okay, I walk into this arena, I'm fighting for my village now. I'm fighting for my tribe.
And you can also tell that, especially, this is a later scene, but you can definitely tell that when she finally looks at Hiccup after him messing up with the Deadly Natter and tells him, figure out whose side you're on. This is a war.
Our parents' fight is about to become ours. Choose whose side you're on. But again, to continue, to continue what I was saying before. So Astrid doesn't really acknowledge him, but she does want him to do better. On the other hand, Snoutlout is the typical bully because he believes I'm the best. I'm what this village needs, I'm what the village wants, and I'm going to kick ass. So
Thor's chosen gift.
Yeah. So Snotlout, oi oi oi. But yeah, you can tell that he's the guy that doesn't like Hiccup because he's a loser. If Hiccup's the nerd at school, he's the guy that forces him to do his homework and gives him wedgies, I think. So he's the dominant bully. The twins are like Snotlout's minions, I guess you can say, because they attack Hiccup as well, but they do get consequences. They're not fully competent, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, I think actually when we're talking about the beginning of the movie, I think all of the characters are separate and they're not exactly friends. They're just kind of like a generation, because if you just notice it, Snotlout pays a lot of attention to Astrid because, of course, he wants to win her heart or whatever because she's the best warrior. But they don't really have a relationship with each other. And in the end, it's kind of the dragons that brings them together and makes them a team. If you look at them before that, they're kind of acting on their own. The twins act together because they're twins and, they're a paired character set. But, they each have their own personalities and they're kind of doing their own thing and trying to train in their own way. And they don't really come together until Hiccup brings them together.
The dragon training. Well, they start to come together during the dragon training as well, but the only thing they really had that linked them, I would say, would be they had a similar job at that point in time.
Yeah, and to some extent the dinners they share with Gabel. Again, to some extent because they do have conversations, they do discuss each other's pros and cons. It's not bringing them together as much as the dragons, but it does build a connection.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, it's a connection there.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to mention, Fish Legs, you can tell that he is the exposition guy. He is the one that tells you everything about the dragons that you need to know, and by extent the audience needs to know. But in terms of relationship to Hiccup, he's not really criticizing him, but he's just, he's there, he didn't do anything bad to me specifically, so I'm not going to be harsh on him. And I think that's because in the books, Fishlegs is Hiccup's best friend, so they want him to keep it somewhat similar.
I think also...
go ahead.
You can go first.
I would also like to point out real quick that it's exposition, but it's really well done exposition, I would say. Like, you can't, like, you can, it's narration, sure, but it's giving you information, but it's just well done and it ties in with who that character is. Like, it's clever exposition.
Yes, and also because we don't know the dragons, so it's kind of important to us as well, as we learn it along with Hiccup. We need to know what each dragon's pros and cons are, what this one can do against that one. So it's an interesting exposition. It's not overblown. Voyger, you wanted to say before?
Well, I was just going to say that I think one of the reasons that Fishlegs doesn't, join in with teasing Hiccup is that, at least, as it's portrayed, his skill with the dragons is, about on par with Hiccup's, if you really think about it. He's not really even though he's the biggest guy there, he's not really the athlete. And so, his weapon is his dragon knowledge, but he doesn't necessarily, know how to deal with them in the same way that Astrid would, or that, the twins would just run up and attack, or, Snotlout would.
Yeah, he's the brains, not the bones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so a dragon always goes for the kill. And then Hiccup goes back to where he met Toothless. Why didn't you? And there the friendship pretty much starts. So the part we all love about the movie, the forbidden friendship scene.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you remember your first thoughts while watching it? What were you thinking?
I was trying to see if Toothless had drawn anything in the sand. I was personally really focused on trying to find the actual image in there.
There was a thing that I'm sure you may have seen it going around here and there that still goes around, that that Toothless drew Hiccup's face in a roundabout way, maybe. I don't know, maybe you agree with it, maybe you don't. It's just a funny little thing that other people have kind of tried to connect together that I think is interesting. But the scene as a whole is just extremely well done. Like, it shows the directors, like Dina Bloy and Chris Sanders, it shows their knowledge of movies as a medium and how you can do well with them, and that being like show don't tell. That scene is just the epitome of, in my opinion, show don't tell. There's no voice, it's just the music and the animation speaking for itself, and if there was any voice in that scene, it would ruin it. That scene is what it is because of the animation and just the music, just the simple little few piano notes and them touching. It's just beautiful as it is.
Yeah, a friend once told me as a joke that if How to Train Your Dragon was a Disney movie, there would have been a pop song in that part. And while I like Disney and everything, a pop song would have ruined this scene.
Maybe without
I totally agree with both.
with how Disney's currently been doing, maybe there wouldn't have been lately, but at that time, yeah, there probably would have been. Probably
That
would
was
have been.
2010. Tangled was about to come out, and it has pretty songs, good songs, but that's another topic.
Yeah.
But one thing I do want to say about that, I have a dog, and that dog is my best friend. No competition. And there's the point where Toothless goes to sleep, and Hiccup attempts to touch him. You know, and he slowly inches towards him, and just as he's about to touch Toothless wakes up, and Hiccup just gets up and goes away. I love teasing my dog doing that, even before the movie came out. So that little point touched me. That was the point where I was like, okay, I understand. This is me and my dog to some extent.
I would agree. I've done something similar as well. It's fun to tease animals a little bit, having fun. Not in a mean way before anyone gets mad.
Although my dog didn't try to draw me, as far as I'm aware.
Never know. There's always a chance.
Okay, so, and I think the real part of the scene is that it doesn't go on for too long, but it doesn't go on for less time. It's just the perfect amount, I think. The pacing of the scene is just perfect.
Yeah, I think
Any
so. Just
agreement?
going back to what Wolf said at the beginning, I completely agree with all of it. It's just kind of the epitome of what animation can be.
Yeah.
But what a movie can do, really. It's just the culmination of everything you should do right in a movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's kind of
Yeah,
what
this
makes
could have
that
been
scene
a
what it
short
is.
film, as I keep thinking about it. Like, cut the entire thing. How long is the scene? 3 minutes, pretty much? This could have been a short film.
Just
and-
follow that scene by itself, from Hiccup first arriving there with the shield and the fish and just kind of going along with that. You could have had a small short film based off of solely that, and it probably would have done extremely well. People would have been really good by it, or really happy by it.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay,
you're
so
right. I agree with that.
So Hiccup learns stuff about dragons from Toothless and uses it in the class. Personally, I really like the scene with the deadly nadder where he scares them off with his hands and then throws the eel in there, and everyone looks at him like, what the hell happened here? And he's like, okay, we good because I have stuff to do, so I'll see you later. And he runs away.
Hideous Zippleback, by the way.
First of all,
Gonna be that person.
yeah, minor correction.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's all right. It was a lot of
So-
those scenes were a lot of fun. It was definitely it was it was cool to see Hiccup, kind of growing along, and everyone kind of moving along with training. It was interesting. It was a quick way to show growth within all of the characters, really, all of the teens, anyways. Especially Hiccup the most, though, because the movie does center around him and Toothless.
Yeah, and also I like the fact that Hiccup doesn't automatically create the perfect tail fin for Toothless. Like, they show progression. He tries pulling it with a rope he holds in his hand. He tries to just connect a rope to his foot, but until he develops the mechanism he has eventually. And I like that progression. It gives you the growth. Any other movie will probably be like, okay, tried once, he got it all. Here's the mechanism. We see how it evolves.
That makes me think of sorry.
No, go ahead.
That makes me think of the very beginning of Big Hero 6 when they have that time lapse of Hero in the garage working on those tiny little bot things. You don't really see that everyone's working on it, but you don't see the progression of that invention.
Yeah,
It was just
it
interesting.
just appears. That's it.
Uh-huh.
No. And another thing is that about what we said before regarding Astrid, where she wanted Hiccup to do better, and when he does, out of nowhere, she starts getting pissed off. And I find it interesting because even though she wants him to succeed for the village, she still has that bit of a ego.
Oh, she's competitive. You know, she wants to still be the
she's
best.
competitive. Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And again, that's like a nice little add-on that shows a little bit more of some of the other characters too. That, you know, they're still characters. They're still there, even if they're not as important or they're still side characters. It's still nice to see them have some development too.
Yeah, exactly. And now we go on to my personal favorite scene, the test flight scene. Any
I didn't get to see
objections
this
to
movie
that?
in theaters, so like I know a lot of people will say the 3D for that scene is amazing. I missed that.
I
Again,
am
like
going
said,
to testify.
like I said, I didn't get to see it in theaters, so I don't know what I'm missing. Probably a good thing. But even then, like the scene, like just, you know, as a basic movie is concerned, just watching it HD and all that, still looks amazing, and you can still kind of feel like the intensity of it and just the fun that it would be.
Yeah, this is one of those movies where I said in my head, I really want to do this. I want to do this, but sadly I can't.
I'd say everyone does.
Unless they're allergic to dragons, I guess.
Still do it.
If that's a thing.
Still do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Still worth.
Okay, so Voyger, your thoughts on Test Flight?
Well, I was going to ask you first, because you just said it's your favorite scene, so I'd really like to hear why and,
so one thing about me, I'm a sucker for these scenes where the heroes just fly and there's this orchestral music going on, and this is the pinnacle of that type of scene. Like, I think, give me a second to a few months before this movie came out, have you guys ever heard of Astro Boy?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of it, yes.
Okay, so I was a fan of the animes actually before, and then they made a movie which came out a few months before this, and that had a scene like that which I really liked. So, but I wished it could have been a bit longer, a bit slower in terms of progression. It ended too quickly, if you know what I mean. And then this scene comes along, and it's just the perfect amount. We see them managing, we see them screwing up a bit, and there's also a bit of an interaction between Hiccup and Toothless where Hiccup accidentally navigates him towards the rocks, and Toothless slaps him with his ear. It's not, those little moments make the scene, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And also at the end when they after the chip sheet disconnects and they fall, Hiccup gets back on Toothless's tail and he tries to look at the chip sheet again, and then he just decides, you know what, screw it. He throws it away, and they go to all the rocks, and they come out, and of course the music is phenomenal. You guys know that, and just a perfect scene.
Yeah, I'd agree.
That's all I have to say.
You know, and again, it's like, you know, it shows all the culmination of his learning too, and it's just, you know, very good. Actually, real quick, I'd like to say, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a long time since I've seen a different topic, I know, but Iron Giant has a scene similar to this too. And I can't remember how it goes, but it's very similar and feels very good as well.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I haven't seen this movie in a while as well, so...
As a matter of fact, I'd say Iron Giant has a lot of scenes similar to the How to Train Your Dragon, as comparisons go.
Okay, so after that, I guess we can pretty much skip to Astrid finds out about Toothless.
Actually, Voyager, what did you think of that scene? Since we didn't really hear your opinion on it.
Oh yeah.
It's fine. I think it's kind of another great show don't tell scene, because Hiccup does have a few lines, you know, all right bud, let's get this going, but other than that, you know, we're still just kind of watching them learn, and it's very. They get to the point where they're high up in the air and they start to fall, and Hiccup screams. But other than that, you're really just like being shown, and you can just interpret the drama automatically. And I think it's just another great example of what these directors did with this movie that makes it amazing.
I'd agree.
And then at the end, we get our triumph where we watch them duck and dive and dodge, and then come out at the end and have that light little moment where Toothless blasts the air and Hiccup gets singed.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so after that, so Astrid finds out about Toothless and hijinks ensue. And one of my favorite Hiccup quotes is "Da da da, we're dead."
Is that the line that was like in the trailer but wasn't in the movie? Is that what?
No, it wasn't the trailer, but for some reason in the trailer I thought, oh my god, this movie is gonna suck. I see it in the movie and it's like, it's one of my favorites. So that's my story with it. But I don't know why, but somehow about how it was placed in the movie was just perfect. And
it works really well for the character. Like in that, with context, yeah, I would say it works really well for the character. But going back a bit, we skipped over one scene that I think, a few scenes that I think play major importance for Hiccup's character growth. And
the conversation with Stoic.
Well, not just that, but also Hiccup's realization with, I guess you'd say, Book Toothless or the Terrible Terror, and you're not, what everything we know about you is wrong. Like that line, and his realization as a character that everything he had come to know and believe in and had been taught was wrong. And I think that leads in nicely to the scene with Stoic, where Stoic comes home, he's proud of Hiccup, he's happy for him, he's finally becoming what he wants him to become. And you kind of go, and then you kind of flip back to Hiccup, where he's sitting there, like, not hiding, but questioning everything that, his life had been based upon up until that moment, because he, had that realization that everything he'd been taught was wrong. And I think that's another good, sorry, I'm going to drone on here for a bit, but I think that's another good parallel for the movie, where when you finally see Stoic come into the, kind of study Hiccup has back in the blacksmith shop, it's a good it's kind of an awkward father-son moment, but it's also a good parallel between two kind of opposing ideals for a bit, and the kind of like difficulty it is to start a discussion with someone who believes so differently from you. It's also kind of an awkward father-son moment, but I think it's a good parallel for that as well, to a degree.
Agreed. Also, actually, funny thing about it, I'm jumping a bit ahead to How to Train Your Dragon 2 now. When Stoic gives Hiccup the helmet and he says it was a part of your mother's breastplate, that's it. And someone when we saw Valka in the trailers for the second movie, someone actually typed in the comments, I saw it by accident, when somebody said her breast is not as big as Hiccup's head. It goes against the first movie. So just stupid thing I saw tattoo shell. Okay, so now to Astrid meets Toothless. Of course, actually, before that, I like the fact that she's pissed off when Hiccup is chosen to kill the dragon. Because... You didn't tell me?
It's that competitive nature shining through again. Yeah, I'd agree. It's a nice little touch.
Yeah, because... And you can also understand this because here comes this guy who, until... Like she said, nobody gets as good as you do, especially you. Because how did this scrawny screw-up manage to beat me, the best in the class? So I like that, and she was also determined to see what's going on, and it leads us to the scene we were trying to get to for the past few minutes.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Things pop up. So the romantic flight scene. Any thoughts about that?
That it shouldn't be
10 out of
called the
10.
romantic flight scene. Very good scene, I'd
Okay.
agree, but I don't believe it should be called the romantic flight scene. Personally. And it goes back to kind of how I view Hickstrid and like kind of the relationship. I do believe in the first movie the relationship wasn't handled very well, that it feels rushed, and I believe it hurts Astrid's character to some degree because at that point she becomes more of Hiccup support and less of who she was in the beginning.
Yeah, actually, Rush and I talked about this where people say that she actually fell in love with Toothless, not necessarily Hiccup. Hiccup is just the thing that's human, so she needs to attract to him.
Interesting idea.
I mean,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry. I mean, no offense to those people. I don't see it. Yeah, I just don't. Go ahead.
The episode about Astrid is going to be a blast, I can tell already, but until we get to there. I like the romance. It's like, it's not the... I won't say this should be homework to other romantic movies or something, but for something that's there, it's there, it works, I guess.
I don't hate it.
For me.
I don't hate it, and like to dispel any people who love Hickstrid who might be getting mad at me and are already typing comments, I'm sure. I don't hate it. Like, it's fun, I enjoy it, I have no problems with it. I just don't think it was handled that well in the first movie, and the reason, but I do, and the reason I say like take away the romantic stuff is I feel the scene would go a lot better, and it would support who Astrid is a lot more. Like, just like the scene can still play out the same way, just take away like romantic, like, you know, this is the flight scene, doesn't sound as good and doesn't roll off the tongue as well, I know, as romantic flight scene does, but take away romantic from that and I feel it kind of supports the scene better, because it's more, at that point it's more of Hiccup changing Astrid's mind, which goes into his growth more as a character. And you know, you have the scene, you have like them meeting the Red Death and then coming back to the Cove. I'm skipping ahead here a bit, I know, but that all culminates into his decision of, all right, I'm going to stand up for my ideals now. And you can kind of see Astrid ready to run off and tell Stoic about the Red Death, and Hiccup says, no, wait a minute, that wouldn't be good for Toothless, that would cause way more harm than it would help. Wait, I'm going to and then like he finds courage within himself, and he starts to, you know, more firmly believe in the ideals that he's learned now with befriending Toothless, and he's willing to fight for them and believe in them and defend them now, even against his own father. And you know, I know Astrid's still a teenager, so she is more easily impressionable and more quickly to change her mind than, say, Stoic will, but it's that fake confidence that kind of helps him grow and gives him the courage to you know, go against his entire
Viking
village.
way.
Yes, go against his entire village at that point. And without that scene, that wouldn't happen, and you know, it would feel disjointed. So you still need that scene. I know some people like to say that that scene's entirely pointless or that scene doesn't add a lot, but I feel it does. But I feel
It does.
I feel it focuses
it
on.
really does.
I feel people either focus on just the romantic part, or, and that's why they say it's not as good, or you know, Hickstrid kind of overrides everything at that point. And I don't think it should, personally, which is why I say the romantic stuff, I'm on it.
Yeah, because one thing people seem to forget about this is that How to Train Your Dragon is not a romance story.
Oh no, it's not.
Hickstrid is not the focus. The focus is the relationship between the boy and his dragon, not the boy and the girl he crushes on. So
And of his growth as well, to become who
Yeah.
the hero he's, you know, to become a hero.
yes.
A hero the hard way, as the books
So-
call it.
Voyger, anything to add?
No, I think you guys. I don't know. You just you're very thought out there, and I
Sorry.
appreciate that.
I have a.
No,
It's
I
okay.
love
I
it.
could write
It's
I
great.
could write an entire thing about that, I'm sure, about like those from the, you know, everything we know about you is wrong scene to the ending scene in the Cove. Like I could go on about that for a long time. Lots
Right.
of thoughts.
I personally, I personally just haven't thought about Hickster developing at that point. Like, I don't know. It just seems to me like Astrid changed her mind, and started appreciating what Hiccup had done, and then she kisses his cheek when they return at the very end. But I still just interpreted that as Hiccup in his personality. He's growing on her a little bit. I didn't really take that as their boyfriend and girlfriend now.
I would agree with that. Yeah, that's how I kind of took
And
it
yeah,
at first as
they're
well.
not actually. I don't think any. I personally didn't get couple until the ending. That was just like, okay, it's going there, but it's not there yet.
I would agree with that. That's kind of how I felt as well. It took me like a second watch before I started to see some of the other things that about with Hiccup's growth and stuff like that. The first time I saw it, it was more of a, all right, he's growing on her, and then at the end, all right, so it's going to be there eventually. I'm good with that. That's nice. It's nice to know that. It's kind of a little afterthought and nice little ending. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next scene we have Hiccup against the Monster's Nightmare. Voyger, you want to start on that one?
I was just thinking about it. That one might be my favorite scene. I love the suspense in it when Hiccup, he drops his knife and the whole crowd goes quiet, and then Stoic, he's taken aback, and you have this second of nothingness, and then he just explodes and busts into the ring, and then the whole fight breaks out. It's crazy.
And Tutas feels Hiccup is in danger, and he rushes in to save him.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of another good scene for that show don't tell as well, I would say. Especially when...
Again, there's a bit of dialogue there, but it's not... If you take away the dialogue, nothing will be lost.
Yeah.
And then one of my favorite parts is the conversation between Hiccup and Stoic about what Hiccup did. And there's this... After Stoic disowns Hiccup, like in any other movie, it would just be, you're not my son. Few scenes later, okay, I forgive you, you are my son again, I'm Portuguese. But after Stoic says that, we see him walk out of the building, and then he gasps, is taken aback for a second, and then he just continues walking like, it's for the better. But you see how it hurts him to do this.
I mean, he does love his son.
You feel the pain. Yeah, you feel the pain that he didn't want to do it, but he doesn't have a choice, and that's human emotions. We go back and forth. He's not one-dimensional, and it would have been so easy to make him one. So, kudos to them.
Agreed.
I agree with that.
Okay, so Astrid boots Hiccup's morale. Anything about that?
Again, a very nice scene where it's kind of her coming back to really question him, and for him, again, it's another realization moment for him, like, I was never this person. I was never going to be a Viking who killed dragons. Even if he didn't necessarily get it, he still kind of knew it, and it's a nice little thing of pulling that out of him, of pulling it out of him, and pulling that realization out of him, and making him realize this is who he is. Someone who is meant to, maybe not meant to, but someone who has inadvertently, joined dragons and Vikings together and is doing a lot of, different things, but still in a way being a Viking. I don't know, I'm kind of rambling here. But it's a good scene. It's an alright scene, but again, maybe, I don't know, a good scene. A decent scene.
Yeah. And I also like how later on she calls the other teens and they're all aboard this plan, like in an instinct. Everyone just, okay, you know what you're doing, what you want to do, we'll do it.
It's a nice little touch also to kind of see some of them are there for their own reasons a little bit as well. The twins are there because it's, a crazy plan. They love crazy. They're all for that. It's not like it's kind of on it, and Fish Legs maybe because it's something new and he loves dragons so much. Like, you can kind of see little hints as to, them, again, being, not just one-dimensional characters, but having more character to themselves of why they're there, not just because it's Hiccup, because for their own reasons, too. Snotlout, you can kind of see he followed mostly because of Astrid. Again, just nice little touches.
Actually, you know how many people started shipping Hiccup and Ravna just because she looks at them and says, "I like that" in that tone. You know how many?
A lot, I'm sure.
You can take anything. I mean, people do crazy things with single lines from anything nowadays. So let's just goodness.
I get it. It's everyone has their own. If you enjoy that ship, fine, sail away, have fun. Enjoy it.
Yeah,
Totally.
I'm personally not going to join that ship. That's it. I'm not on board. Okay, so I guess final fight. The final fight scene. And something I want to point out, people usually say that this movie doesn't really have a villain. And the Red Death is sort of just like the final obstacle Hiccup and Toothless have to overcome in order to prove their point.
And does kind of go against a little bit of what Hiccup had been kind of espousing for a little bit at there. It's like, all dragons are good except for that one. Yeah, let's beat that one, and then everything's good.
Yeah, someone actually pointed it out that we don't have to kill dragons except that one dragon that we just blew up from the inside.
A little bit of a...
I mean, we've seen.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That's a really good point. But at the same time, as they continued to develop, the show and how dragons work, and we get into the later, kind of media, we see that there are some dragons that aren't trainable. We've seen, like the
Squirrel.
Oh my goodness, I can't think of its name. The Screaming Death or the Death Song, those two.
Yeah, those are two good ones. And the Snow Wraith is kind of one as well, and the Squirrel to a degree, I'd say as well. It looks like they might be untrainable.
Mm-hmm. So they're just like, at the time, I doubt that they thought that any creator thought that far out into it. But at the same time, it ends up making the point that, that they all can't be trained. They're not all, instinctually, trainable and in their hearts good kind of thing.
Yes. And okay, so just before the final fight, there's after Stoic frees Toothless from the trap, there's this, it's just a small scene, a small part, but after Toothless pulls Stoic out of the water, and he shakes the water off a bit, and then he singles for Hiccup like, "Come on, let's kick this guy's ass." I love that part. It's just a small moment, but it gives Toothless so much personality.
Again,
I think the bigger focus.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, finish. Go ahead. You were further.
I was just saying, it's another good, character growth scene. Like, hey, here's this little thing about Toothless where, he's been around with Hiccup enough where, hey, he's learned a bit, and he's Hiccup was growing on him too, to a degree.
Yes.
Right. But I think the bigger focus there is the Hiccup Stoic relationship, obviously. Just the fact that, Stoic's disappointed, but he realizes that Hiccup's onto something here and he supports his son.
Yeah, and also with the parallels we've been talking about at the beginning when Stoic says, "We're Viking, it's an occupational hazard when they have to search for the nest." And now Stoic tells Hiccup, "You don't have to go there." And he says to him, "We're Vikings, it's an occupational hazard."
Again, showing they are father and son, whether they believe it or not, and whether it feels like that way to Hiccup sometimes, they are father and son. They're very much similar in many ways. And it's also kind of a good scene, a little bit before that, where you see Stoic and Toothless kind of just stare down each other in the water. You can still tell, I don't like you. You can, Stoic, he's still very much, I don't like you, but it seems like you're my only option now, so here we go. I'm going to put my faith and trust in you for this bit.
Yes.
That takes a lot, that does take a lot of courage, I guess you'd say, and a lot of I don't know what is the word I'm looking for. Crap. It takes a lot of character to be able to admit to put all of your beliefs and ideals and what you've been taught your entire life aside for that moment. Because he could have very much been stubborn still.
Yeah, so, and continuing what I was saying before about no villain, actually, a lot of people see Stoic as the redeemable villain of this movie.
I would agree.
I don't think he's the villain as much as...
Again, it's up for interpretation.
Maybe to a
I would
small
say anti-hero, I'll say.
To a degree, maybe. Like he's very much like the obstacle in the hero's path. Maybe not like an evil obstacle, but he's definitely like, this is the thing the hero has to overcome. He has to overcome, and maybe like maybe the ultimate evil, I guess you'd say, the ultimate obstacle for the hero isn't overcoming his father, but it's overcoming, like a different set of ideals, like him trying to win over everyone's hearts and minds and have them believe his way instead of the way they've grown their entire lives believing. Like, they've fought dragons for their entire lives. It's very hard to overcome all of that malice and hatred and want of revenge, and yet the hero overcame it. So maybe his ultimate obstacle wasn't necessarily Stoic or the Red Death, but it was overcoming all of that to bring peace to everyone. The dragons and...
That's exactly what I was going to say.
So basically the main villain of this movie was... what was the name of the Viking who wrote the Book of Dragon? Bolt, was its name?
Maybe not him per se, but like the ideal of fighting dragons, anger.
You got my point. Anyway, Hiccup and Toothless take on the Red Death. One of the best shots in the movie when Hiccup says the thing has wings. Well, let's see if we can use them. And they do this 180 turn and just dive right into him. Perfect shot. Love it.
I think one that might even be better is the shot of the clouds where it looks like lightning, but we know that they're firing shots back and forth at each other. That's
very
great.
Good shot, yeah.
Yeah. And personally, the shot that stayed with me after I left the theater was when, after the Red Death explodes and Hiccup and Toothless are hit by the tail, and Toothless just pushes himself in order to get Hiccup. And there's this extreme long shot of Hiccup falling into the flames and Toothless trying to get to him just before he catches him. I love that part. It looks amazing.
Yeah, it does look good. All of that also is, again, bringing this back up, another good show don't tell. Again, this movie does that a lot.
Yeah. And then Hiccup is alive, and Stoic accepts Toothless, but at the cost of Hiccup's leg. Thoughts on that the first time you saw it?
I think the silence of both of us is a good illustration that we were just in shock.
Probably. Actually, Wolf, you said you saw episodes of the show before that, so you probably knew it was coming.
I didn't. Actually, no, I didn't. To believe it or not, like, I mean, I knew he had a metal leg, and in the first two episodes of the show in Riders of Berk, I don't believe like they ever kind of tell you what happened to his leg, and if I'm not mistaken, so it's just I just assumed, all right, so he was just lost it somehow, and I knew he had lost it maybe, or that he was maybe had issues, and that's just a thing. It's like, it was very interesting that they showed that, but that amputation, that people kind of needed that back then, and that was a common thing. And you kind of see that with Gobber, so I just assumed, all right, well, that's just a thing they did. So I didn't necessarily know it was coming in the first movie. It didn't necessarily surprise me too much, but at the same time, it still surprised me, if you get my meaning. It's just uncommon, and it was so well done.
Voyger, your first thoughts on it when you saw it?
I mean,
I guess nobody expected it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was just really shocking.
It's a great parallel, but it's
Yeah.
just you don't see it coming, in my opinion. No matter
You don't see it coming because also I think because it's an animated movie, you don't even think about this direction.
you expect
If
the
this
hero
was
to
live
come out
action,
unscathed.
yes, exactly. So to go on that route where and it's not like a scar that won't go away. He doesn't have a leg. He won't get that leg back. He needs to live now as a one-legged man. So
Up until that point, like a lot of animated movies, you're not used to seeing the hero come out, scarred. Like, and even again, as you said, if they do come out scarred, it's, hey, it's a scar across the face, or just some like, hey, I'm that much more of a hero now thing, because I look even more of the part. But for Hiccup, it's like he looks even less of a hero now because he's, hindered. He's, handicapped. He's missing a foot.
yes,
It's just unexpected at that time. You expected the hero. It's a good scene. A good scene.
yeah, yeah, and also the interesting part where Toothless lost his left tail fin, Hiccup lost his left leg. So another mirroring kind of thing, which works.
It's a great like unspoken parallel. We've discussed lines that are similar between Stoic and Hiccup, but this is one that just happened visually, and we all get it, which is ridiculously good.
And it's another
Yep.
small scene there, though, where, again, it's very much show, don't tell again, where you see Hiccup kind of coming to grips with what he lost. And again, like, they kind of pan back behind Toothless and Hiccup kind of leaning on Toothless for support, and Toothless missing a tail fin. It's all very much,
Yes.
again, done with show, don't tell. And it's very well done.
Yeah, because I think a lot of other movies, if they did do the hero lost his leg, they will probably shove into your face there will be a line of dialogue that says, "Oh, so now you're like the dragon," and they'll make a joke out of it. No, they let you figure it out on your own, and I love when movies do that.
Agreed.
And that's pretty much the ending. And one thing I want to say about that is that this movie closes up perfectly. All the problems are resolved, and when a sequel was announced, my first thought was, well, what are they gonna do with it? That was before the trailer came out, where they revealed it's going to be 5 years later.
I'd agree.
I-
It ends itself practically. All the questions that needs to be answered are answered. Everything's changing. You can kind of infer a lot of stuff on your own if you want to. It's very, good ending. It all wraps up nicely.
And it closes with another parallel to the beginning where we talk about most people have pets like horses or dogs or cats, but we have dragons, and it ends the way it begins, and it also establishes the way things go from there, the way that the show opens, the way that the second movie opens and closes. I think it's something that it became kind of a defining part of what Dragons is that you open to this sarcastic line from Hiccup where you can infer all of his charm, and it's really interesting that it sticks with the character even though he's clearly going to have grown between the first and second movie, which occurs years later.
And actually, one thing about the narration, notice that in the beginning he describes Berk as a good place with the only problem being the dragons, and then at the end he describes Berk as a terrible place where the only upside is the dragons. So that's a nice little detail.
Yeah, and I think it shows, kind of the change of heart of the people that, they were enemies,
Hiccup
but
especially.
yeah, it's all turned around.
Yep. So that's How to Train Your Dragon. Fantastic movie. If the listeners didn't get it by now, we love it. Although the people who listen to it might love it just as much as we are, because otherwise, why are they listening?
Why are you watching this? Go watch the movie, then come back. We'll wait. We'll still be here.
Yep, go right
Actually,
now.
we kind of spoiled the entire thing, so
If you're in this
Yeah.
far,
Watch
you
it
should have
anyway.
went. Well, yeah, go ahead and watch it anyway, but you shouldn't have started first. You shouldn't
Yeah.
have started this first.
Yeah, watch it first, then come back. You know what? Watch it first and then come back to episode 2.1 where I discuss the movie with Rush, our other host. Go watch it. And yeah, man, we've gone about it for an hour. Oh wow.
I ramble. Sorry.
It's okay, dude.
No,
It's a
I think
great
there's that
movie.
much. I think there's that much great stuff to talk about. Yeah.
Yep, it's a great. I want to say I can't wait until we get to the episode where we talk about How to Train Your Dragon 2, but that's not due for a while. We have other episodes to do before that. But yeah, I think we can wrap this up. Any last thoughts?
I never said it, so I'll kind of say my favorite part real quick. I'd say my favorite part is, again, like having watched the movie a few times now, I think my favorite part is moved into the a culmination of scenes of, again, like everything we knew about you is wrong. Like starting from there, going to the Astrid and Hiccup arriving back at the cove after having seen the Red Death. Like the culmination of that scenes and kind of what it means for Hiccup's growth as a character. I think all of that has slowly become my favorite part of the movie.
Okay, cool. Voyger, last thing to say?
My last thing is a question for both of you, which is, what is your favorite piece of soundtrack from the movie?
Wolf, you go first. I need to think about this.
Forbidden Friendship is great. Like, even though kind of the piano isn't necessarily, like, there's no key to it necessarily. I think that's the right word. I'm not a musician. I'm sure musicians will be mad at me for getting it wrong. Sorry. But Forbidden Friendship is really good. Like, just the piano and how it's done is very good. And I think the other one is the music when they're fighting the Red Death. I enjoy that a lot. I would say between those two.
Okay, so after that, I'm not going to say Test Drive because that's probably the answer you guys are thinking of. So I'll say the music that plays at the opening scene when the dragons attack. I'll say that one because it gives you the feel of the scene and the movie in general, I think. So I'll say that one.
All right. Mine is probably called, I think it's the one called New Tale. I think it's a great piece of music.
It's the track that plays during the montage where they try the tale, right?
Right. But I think it's a great piece of music even without any visuals or any context with the movie, because there's just this part. It starts out very softly, but then there's a drum that kicks it, and almost like you would hear some kind of like marching band, and it just picks up, and the whole thing, goes into this crescendo of really epic drumming, as you can kind of imagine Hiccup and Toothless trying to fly for the first time, and Hiccup getting flung off into the water. It's a really cool piece of music, and I really enjoy that one.
Okay, cool. So I think that's it. So guys, thank you for watching. I'm HC.
I'm Voyager.
I'm Wolf, your guest.
Thank you for joining us.
I'm glad you had me. Honored to be here.
Yeah, I'm bringing you
thank
for
you.
the Astrid episode. No doubt. And yeah, so to the listeners, hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.